Welcome back, guys. I'm going to show you a real quick tip on how to tie a loop knot. In my opinion, this is an absolute must-have with the new and famous Damiki rig. You know, this thing is pretty much taken over the last 12 to 15 months. It's just an absolutely deadly technique, but in my opinion, a loop knot is the most important part of that technique. I've showed you guys in a video before, but I've had so many people reach out to me since wanting to see it more up close and in depth, so I'm going to show it to you again. One thing I'm going to tell you beware of is on tying this loop knot, make sure whatever, this is a Queen's Tackle jig head. It's my favorite jig head, but just about any jig head will work as long as the line tie is coming up out of the top of the jig head like that and not out here like a little swim bait jig head. But what you want to do is make sure, I tie a loop knot a lot on my Yozuri topwaters as well, but you have to make sure that there is not a gap between in that line tie. There can't be a gap. If there's a gap, this loop knot will slip out. You'll think it's broke, you'll reel it in, your loop's still perfectly intact and there's no bait on the end of it. So you have to make sure that whatever you tie it on, it's either got a welded shut eye or it's pinched so tight together that it's just not going to slip out of there. And even then, sometimes it will slip out if it's not welded shut. So I'm going to show you guys how to tie this real quick. It's so simple. I'm telling you, I've had so many people that I've showed this to have gotten back with me like, man, that knot is incredibly strong. You wouldn't believe it. And you wouldn't. This is such a simple knot. There's really no steps to it. I've seen all the loop knots just about there or out there to tie. A lot of them, tons of different steps. They look really beefed up and you know, they look strong. But this one here is so simple and it looks like there's nothing to it. And I'm telling you, I've boat flipped 5.5 pounders with this thing on top water. You know, 16 to 20 pound mono leaders, but still, even with this 6, 8, 10 pound Yozuri fluorocarbon, I've boat flipped multiple 3.5 plus pounders. So 3.5 to 4. You know, I'm not gonna boat flip many fish over 4 pounds on a spinning rod, and that's only if I've really got the momentum coming to me. But most time, you know, if it's a 2.5 plus pounder, I'm gonna get down, I'm gonna lip them. But this knot is incredibly strong. So starting out, very first step, got your line right here. I'm gonna take and make a super easy, just nothing special, an overhand loop. That's what it looks like. There's your tag in, there's your loop. I'm gonna show it to you one more time. Nothing special, just a little loop. That's all you do right there. Take my finger, kind of roll it down a little bit, just give you a little bit to work with. Take the tag in. Probably doesn't matter which side of the jig head you go in on, but I always like to point the hook, you know, the shank of the hook away from me, and I always come in on what I call the right side of the jig head, with the jig head, the eye tie on my side of the hook. Go through one time, that's it. So there's my loop, there's my tag in, go through the eye of the hook one time, that's it. Got the loop that I made, that's what it looks like, just sliding up and down on your tag in. Got my loop, I go through this loop 2 times. Make sure you're coming in on it like that. Don't go like this. Make sure that you come in like this. Go through it 2 times. That's it. You go through that loop 2 times. I kind of get it a little tight, and once you kind of go to getting it a little tight, then you just take your tag in and pull it. And I pull it almost all the way down to the eye of the hook right there. Almost where it's almost touching the line tie there. And then once I get that close, it'll pull a little separation back away from it when you grab the main line and the tag in and tighten it up like that right there. All right, so that's the knot. The next step, which is the last step, and it's very simple. Grab your tag in, make one more real small loop right in front of the knot, and you come back through that loop across the main line. It'll look just like that, and you've got to pull that right in front of that knot and then pull it back against it and tighten it up just like that. So that secondary loop I made after I tied the knot was in front of the knot, and I kind of pulled it back against the knot, but make sure it stays on the rod tip side of the knot and pull it back tight against that loop there. And then just take your scissors and you can cut it however tight you want it, but I usually cut it like that. What that allows with that loop knot is it allows your jig head to sit perfectly horizontal like that. And that's so crucial Now obviously when you put your bait on there, it's going to look like that, but in the water, it's going to sit perfectly horizontal like that. That's natural. You don't want, if you tie a knot direct, like just tie your regular Palomar or whatever knot you like to tie on and everything else like a jig or whatnot, it's going to be like that unless you pull your knot around on the line tie down here towards the bottom. And then every time you hook a fish and you're fighting the boat, it's going to slide that knot back up, and you'll forget, if you don't remember to move it back, then you're out there shaking your JigHead Minnow with it like this, and it's just not working right. That's the natural presentation. That's what you want that hook to look like, just like that, the way it's sitting perfectly horizontal. That is the most crucial, most important step of throwing a Damiki rig, in my opinion. You know, I like a loop knot for other things like a top water, because it allows your top water to walk more freely, but that's only on top waters that have a little bit of a harder time walking, especially if you're wanting to throw them a little heavier line. But for the most part, I only use a loop knot on my Damiki rig. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, reach out in the comments, and if we need to, I can do another follow-up video. Hope you guys enjoyed that.